made it down to this year's ARBS Trade Exhibition here at the ICC in Sydney. And we're really excited to learn a lot about what's happening in the world of HVAC, especially from a sustainability perspective. There's a lot of talks around this at the moment, considering how much energy is consumed with heating and cooling our buildings. So with a lot of the presentations and a lot of the exhibitors that are around here today, it's one topic of conversation that is very, very hot. So we want to try and walk around today, ask a lot of questions from the presenters as well as the exhibitors so that we can learn more about what's happening in the world of sustainability in HVAC. So look, in the presentation you were discussing the highlighted significance of embodied carbon in HVAC. Can you elaborate on some of the challenges the industry is currently facing and maybe some of the steps that are being taken to overcome some of these issues?
Some of the steps that were taken, so we've got TM65, which is now introduced to the market. So that's going to help us be able to calculate that embodied carbon. So what we're trying to do with CIBSE is get people and manufacturers to calculate that and give us the information through a spreadsheet and then provide that back to the designers so they can calculate the embodied carbon.
Yeah, and you were saying you're getting like a bit of an uptick on this as well, and there's a few people in the room. How are you finding that with the incentivised, like people taking this on board? Are you noticing that it's been a much more of an uptick?
There is an uptake. We're hoping that it accelerates now. So as you can see from the people in the room, there's about a third of the audience that have done the calculations so far. And yeah, we are seeing an uptake in it, and we're wanting to try and get people to provide that information back to CIBSE so we can use it and bring it back to the market again.
And I guess that's like it's what you were saying, Jen, about it being like a bit of like a next step kind of thing before the EPD?
That's right.
Yes, and it's trying to sort of fast track a lot of these the process of becoming or learning more about embodied carbon and reducing those carbon things. Can you make a bit of a comment on that?
Yeah, definitely. Look, I think the EPD is really the gold standard, and what we are not trying to do as CIBSE is replace EPDs, because they are super, super important, not just for carbon, but for all these other environmental indicators. They're also peer-reviewed and third-party verified. So we need to understand that they are super, super important to drive reductions in our supply chain and help us understand our environmental impacts better. They do take a while. So we do need something that we can start on today and a way to capture that data today, and that's what TM65 provides.
Brilliant. Also, you're discussing the climate resilience and how that's needs to be a critical factor in HVAC systems and how we design our HVAC systems. Can you kind of explain how incorporating that climate resilience into HVAC will be, through the design phase, can impact long-term sustainability and operational efficiency?
Yeah, so the climate resilience, so we know that in Australia it's going to get hotter, so no matter what we do, even if we reduce emissions, we are going to get an increase in temperature, so we need to design our cooling systems that are going to take that into consideration. But we also need to work with our clients to look at, can we increase the internal temperatures in the summer, for instance, and decrease them in the winter to help with reducing energy, and can we introduce other factors such as improving our facade performance, introducing natural ventilation and mixed mode systems so that we can then bring down that energy consumption of our HVAC systems.
Except to really just say that as the climate changes, we as people are going to change as well. So that adaptive comfort methodology is really important in that context as well.
Absolutely. What are some of the innovative materials and technologies that are, I guess, currently being used or developed to, I guess, minimise the embodied carbon in some of these HVAC systems that we're now developing?
So a lot of our control strategies that we're adopting now to mixed mode, like I said before, so if we can introduce that natural ventilation, improve our facade performance, but also looking at the new emerging technologies. So as you'll see downstairs, there'll be a lot of new technologies that are coming out with advances in heat recovery and advances in our heat pumps and more energy efficient equipment, such as chillers and the like.
Yeah, and I think that the decarbonisation of the supply chain as well is really going to help. So electrification of manufacturing processes and then moving those manufacturing processes onto renewable energy in particular, that's a big challenge. That's going to take time. For building services designers, what we can do today, exactly as Mark said, is reduce the amount of equipment we need in buildings, full stop.
And lastly, just looking ahead about what some of the significant trends or advancements in HVAC industry that will drive both embodied carbon and reduction and climate resilience over the next decade.
Yeah, so it's mainly that improvement in energy efficiency of equipment, but also looking at how the industry, like how the manufacturers can then look at the embodied carbon of each of their elements of their equipment and how they can reduce that.
Yeah, awesome.
And I think that trade-off between operational and embodied is one of the key things that we need to grapple with as the grid rapidly decarbonises.
Do you think there should be a little bit more of a shift in the talk about climate change?
Yeah, both about climate change and embodied carbon as well. So the more that everyone talks about it and the more that our clients are looking for that step change, then the more the consultants can then get involved, and then the manufacturers will then push for that as well.
Yeah.
And likewise, just with the public who are users of buildings, understanding that buildings in the future may not operate the way buildings do today, and that is because we are actively confronting the challenge of climate change. And I think that perception of building user is also really important.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Yes.